God bless America, my home, sweet home.
I'd like to thank you all for coming here this morning, bright and early. We would like to welcome Congressman Kevin McCarthy. I'm a little bit nervous right now, and his lovely wife Judy, and his head, I guess, honcho, Vince Vaughn. Congressman McCarthy is the majority whip in the House of Representatives. And he's here from our small little town of Bakersfield, representing us, but not only us, for the people throughout the United States. And we'd like to welcome you, and we'll give the mic forward to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first, thanks for the great prayer, Larry. Larry and I have been friends for 15 years. We've known each other. He's prayed for me a few times, and I appreciate each and every one. Is it working? I want to thank Francis. Francis has done a great deal of work making sure I'm able to get here. Now, we gave a couple different days, and I know they don't always work right, so hopefully, I don't know if this works well for you in the morning, early Saturday. All right. Unfortunately, I have to go to Washington a few times, but I come back every weekend. My family stays here. In D.C., I don't really want to stay there very often. I actually live in my office. I stay on my couch, so I don't want to stay there any extra days. My wife Judy's with me. She's born and raised here. We met in high school. Good to see the kids here. My daughter usually never misses. Megan, I don't know, even some of you met her. Megan, she's 14 years old, but she's had a lot of health issues for the last couple of years. She just got diagnosed. We've gone through UCLA, Stanford. She's got Lyme disease. It's gone like 5 years, where they first thought she had lupus, and she missed only made 4 days of school this year. Very, very tough. But we're fortunate that now got diagnosed. But when you first start taking your medication, you get sicker, and that's the rolls you. And then Connor, he's 17, going to be a senior next year. He's got the ACT test this morning. Judy was just commenting when she woke him up, he wasn't complaining, so we were excited about that. So we thought that was pretty good. What I want to do first is I want to be able to listen and take questions. I just thought, for one, I want to give a little PowerPoint of some of the presentations that we've been doing across the district. I was over in Ridgecrest yesterday. But most of you know this already, but I try to emphasize this everywhere I go, whether it's Rotary or anywhere else, because we have an unbelievable problem before this country. And I believe we have a very short window to turn it around. Either 2011 is the year of the great America comeback, or it's going to be the long fade into history. Now, there's never been another nation like us in all of society. We are willing to sacrifice our own lives and our own money so other countries could have freedom as well, from liberty and all. Now, we have a fundamental problem. If you look at every government that has crippled, they usually cripple over debt. And you don't see it right off the bat until it becomes too big of a problem and it just cascades. We're at that pivotal point. And what I want to do, I want to walk you through a few PowerPoints here, then I want to open it up for discussion and take questions and others. This is one that, inside the Whip's office, when we became the majority, in the Whip's office, I bring members in, and we have what we call listening sessions, where we try to keep everybody united so we can move it through and try to get it into law. And you gotta understand, we make policy in the world of politics, so some members aren't always wanting to, I might get hurt by voting for something like this. I believe this new Congress is unique. Most members, when they first come to Congress, they're as a freshman, they think their most important job is to get reelected. I will tell you, we've got 96 freshmen in Congress, 87 of them are Republican, 40 of them have never been elected before. Now, my job 2 years ago was going around the country and recruiting these people. And some of you heard me tell the story before, but there was one member that gave me this answer that every single candidate gave me across the country. When I was traveling, recruiting people, I'd be I started in Illinois. NRCC was broke, so I go on my own dime, campaign dime, fly out there. I forget to pack my Garmin. I recruit through Illinois. I'm in Wisconsin when I'm supposed to be in Iowa, so I do a U-turn. I go through Iowa. I go to North Carolina. I've been gone for about a week. And my staff calls me because I'm going to fly into Tennessee to recruit against this blue dog Democrat by the name of Tanner, who 2 years prior, no Republican even challenged. He has $1 million in the bank. But these blue dog Democrats, when they originally created, the blue dogs created, concerned about the size and scope of government. And legitimately, there were blue dogs at the time. I think there's only 1 or 2 left, but this Tanner, they allowed the size of government to get too large. And I thought, we're going to have to challenge it. Well, when I go to land and recruit somebody, my staff calls and says, this guy, he doesn't want to meet with you. I said, well, why would he want to meet with me? He says, well, you're from California, he thinks you're a lot of fruits and nuts out there, you know? I said, well, that's probably true. He said, but he also has a strong accent. I said, it was Tennessee, that's fine. So when I go in, I'd set up a little table like this, and I'd meet with a lot of people, right? And in comes this guy named Stephen Fincher. He's got a new suit on, he's got a beautiful wife, he's 38 years old. I don't even realize it's the guy that doesn't want to meet me, right? And he sits down and he says, Mr. Kevin, I'm Stephen Fincher, and I'm from Frog Jump, Tennessee. Now, I don't know where Frog Jump is. And I would never say to somebody that's going to run, like, I really need you to run. Because I think that's what's wrong for too long. That Washington tried to pick candidates instead of letting people pick candidates. So I always ask people why they wanted to run. Because if you don't have the fire in the belly, you're not going to win anyway. But what Stephen Fincher told me was almost what every other candidate told me. He goes, you know, Mr. Kevin, I've watched the country change before my eyes, and I don't know how I tell my children I do nothing. So now I may lose my farm over this, but I'm going to run. I said, well, Stephen, that's a good reason to run. He said, but Mr. Kevin, I don't know if I'm the best person to run. I said, why is that, Stephen? He said, well, I've never been elected before. I said, well, this is a different climate. You're fine. He said, oh, but Mr. Kevin, I got to be honest with you. I've never even been to Washington, D.C. on vacation. I said, well, as of right now, you're my top recruit in the nation then. Stephen Fincher gets in, does well. About 8 months, Tanner retires, announced retirement. So I call Fincher up. I say, you know what? The next day, tomorrow, Tanner's going to announce retirement. He goes, well, what does that mean, Mr. Kevin? I said, well, what's going to mean is some other people are going to get in the race on the Republican side. They're probably going to get in for the wrong reason. Well, why would they do that? I said, well, they just want to be a member of Congress. So you're just going to have to fight harder. Well, lo and behold, 2 other people get in, and they write themselves millions of dollars of checks. And Washington starts making fun of me that, you know, McCarthy thinks he's going to win the majority back from Frog Jump, Tennessee. Well, you know what? When it came election night, Stephen Fincher won 2-1 in the primary. He didn't have all the money, but he ran for the right reason. Today, he's a member of Congress. And that's a story that goes across. So when we sat down, we bring these members in, and they told me when I first became whip, all the past ones says the hardest thing to ever do is to pass a budget. You'd think that would be the first act of Congress is to pass a budget, right? Well, when the Democrats were in power, where they had the Congress, the Senate, and the White House, they never even proposed a budget. Never even proposed a budget. A $1.5 trillion deficit with no budget. Unheard of. So we said we're going to propose a budget. And we had a couple hiccups along the way, because something we didn't count on. Government is funded not like from January to the end of December. It's funded to the end of September. Well, because they had never proposed a budget or passed one, we take over, and when you get elected in November, the current Congress is still in power. So they go back and pass a continuing resolution where government's only funded to the beginning of March, thinking that we're going to shut the government down, we're going to have a problem, we'll show these Republicans are crazy, you know, and we're going to make life hard for them. So we have a couple challenges that we're going to have to go through. So we're sitting down at the same time, walking through the CR, walking through the budget, and this is what we went through, and I want to show you what we came out. Roughly, we have a $3.5 trillion deficit, a $1 trillion budget, okay? And this is what we spend money on. We spend money on defense, we spend money on discretionary. This is the part that really gets me uptight. In the last 3 years, discretionary spending has increased 83%, okay? 83%, because what they did, they took the stimulus and they added it in. And it's like if you have a small business and you had a good year, so you gave your employees bonuses, you locked that in as now their salary the next year. That's what they did. Okay? Other mandatories come in there. But if you look here, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, you really don't have control over there. If someone reads the criteria of the age, they get it. Same thing here. Well, there's 10,000 people a day hitting this right here. So you've got an unbelievable amount of growth that's happening right now. And you know how it was created with, when you started with Social Security, when it first started, the life expectancy was 63 and you had to be 65 to get it. With Medicare, it was, I think the average age was, life expectancy was 70, and now it's 79. But they never changed the formula to keep up with it. Let's go to the next one. This guy is the head of Honeywell. He got appointed by the president to the Debt Commission. Okay? I just spoke to his board 2 weeks ago. No, go back. He said, the seeds of the next recession have already been planted. The debt burden accumulated over the next 10 years will sink us. This is a person appointed by the president to the Debt Commission saying this. He has an international company, he sees it. Go to the next one. I showed this one because I want people to see what's on autopilot already. And you can't, if you have something on autopilot, you don't have control over it. But also, if you don't have control over it, it's going to go bankrupt. If you like the product and you want to save it, you got to fundamentally reform it. In 1970, 58% Congress was able to do. Here's government spending. Look at the growth, look at the projection. Where 3/4 of your money is already going to go and you have no say over it. Go forward. We talk a lot about less end earmarks and less end foreign aid. Two worthy things. We banned earmarks. We're debating foreign aid. But if we ended all that, could we balance the budget? No. It's 2.1% of the overall budget. So we got to remember how big this problem is. This problem has accumulated on, and I put blame on both parties. When I ran in 2006, I ran against both parties. Go to the next one. This one is a tidal wave of debt. And what I want to show you first is, this is GDP, gross national product, what we produce. This is debt to the percentage of that. Now, I'm not opposed to debt. I took debt on when I got my first business. I took debt on when I bought my house. The problem is the amount of debt that you're able to control. The United States hit an all-time high in 1946. 103% to GDP for debt. Now, why did we hit it in 1946? World War II. We were saving our own country and saving the world, were we not? Thousands of men died for it. Where were we getting our money for this debt? Buying the bonds, doing it ourselves. Okay? So this was the cause. Once that cause was over, look what happened. It went down. Now I want to show you what's the projected. This is CBO numbers. These are not my numbers. These are conservative numbers. Go ahead and hit it. All right? Think of what interest rates are today. If I put in the average interest rate in 1980, this thing would go like this. What are we borrowing for our money here? Our social welfare. You cannot maintain the country if you keep this path. So, when we sat down and we said we were going to craft a budget, we said we're not going to take the political way out. We're going to tackle places that a lot of political people say you should not tackle. We're going to tackle the entire budget. But when I showed you that first pie chart, if we eliminated all the defense and all discretionary, we would still have a deficit. So you can't cut your way totally out of this. You have to grow the economy as well. So, in our budget, Path to Prosperity, this is what it does to this growth. Hit the next one. Oh, it doesn't have it in that one? Oh, all right, we'll go back one. I want to show what it does. In ours, it will take this here, and it will start to curve it where it goes down here. Because ours goes on a path, and a lot of people say just to balance the budget. You don't want something that just balances the budget. because you still have all that debt, 14 trillion. You want to balance the budget and pay off the debt. So that's where ours goes, and be able to go through and down. Go to the next one. Who owns our debt? Does anyone in here know where we sell our debt? We sell bonds. Why? Where do we do it?